blessed with awesome hair, writes a great blog, and has a special affinity towards Firefox, both the browser and the Clint Eastwood movie. Please welcome to the stage, Ryan Martinsen.
See your picture? What? Did you see your picture? No.
Hello, ng-conf. My name is Ryan. I'm here to tell you that you might be sad inside. And here are my qualifications for doing so. I'm a tall, awkward, donut-loving, introverted Disney nerd. I live in Orlando, Florida, and I used to be really unhappy at work. Before I go any further, I'd like to clarify up front that I'm not going to be talking about serious problems like sexual harassment, abuse, misogyny, racism, or discrimination of any kind. If anything in those categories are the source of your unhappiness at work, please do everything you can to get out. You shouldn't have to work in an unhealthy environment. All right, by raise of hands, who in here has ever been unhappy at work? Be honest, I know you people aren't raising your hand or lying. Okay, raise your hand again if you have ever hated a job. Less, that's really good. We're less screwed than I thought. I won't ask if you hate your current job in case your boss or coworkers are sitting next to you. That would be really awkward. It would be even more awkward if you just co-founded a startup and your co-founder was next to you. Come on, man. I didn't hate my job when I started in this industry in the mid-90s, if that's even readable. Sorry, it's a career timeline. I wrote 14 desktop apps for Windows, including the world's first automatic pop-up advertisement killer. Thank you. It was terrible. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't make a lot of money, but I was super happy. After a 2-year interlude where I, depending on your point of view, either taught or bothered people about religion, I got my first job working for somebody else in 2003, and I didn't love it. Over the next 7.5 years, I changed jobs 5 more times, and things only got worse. I was miserable. Why was I so unhappy? Was it bad luck? Maybe. Was there perhaps a common thread running through those 6 jobs, something at the root of it all that was making me unhappy? It took me years, but I eventually reached the obvious conclusion, the one that no doubt you have already figured out. And that is that I needed to give up Internet Explorer 6 as my default browser. Okay, it wasn't Internet Explorer 6. It also wasn't a 7-year-long no donut diet. I would never, ever agree to that. The real problem was that people suck. People suck so badly and are so wrong that at one job, I had to keep a text file on my computer called thingsiamrightabout.txt. In order to keep track of all the things I could rub in people's faces later when they realized how wrong they were and how right I was. I once had a super crappy employer, all right? This employer, freaking jerks. They wanted to give me a raise for taking the job seriously and showing up on time every day in the morning. Can you believe the nerve they had? Crazy jerks. Another super crappy jerk face of a CEO didn't trust the development team. Sure, we might have been behind schedule and the company wasn't doing that well, but to refuse us our promised bonuses? I don't think so. I did the obvious thing, sent an email to my boss telling him I was quitting so I could go to Aruba with some friends. Now this may seem weird and unintuitive, but sometimes rage quitting isn't the best option. Sometimes thingsiamrightabout.txt isn't quite enough. Sometimes you need to tell the world how you feel deep inside. Right? Who in here, be honest, has ever complained to somebody else about code you didn't write? Yeah, me too. I was once so frustrated. This code was so bad, so awful. I just had to tell anybody about this code. So I opened up my instant messenger and fired off a frustrated complaint to a friend. So frustrated. Only to realize a few seconds later that I'd accidentally sent the message to the wrong person. I had, in fact, sent the message to my coworker. Dude, you suck. Your code is terrible. I hate you. Can we be friends now? It was really awkward and terrible, so I gave him a poisoned apple, and then that was the end of the story. Now, at the time, I was super frustrated with a coworker. It just really annoyed me. Had to tell people about it, so I told everybody. I've been home behind the coworker's back. And one day, this went on for weeks, and one day the coworker pulled me aside. I thought, oh, here it comes. Uh-oh, found out. And the coworker unironically thanked me for being a nice person. And told me how grateful they were that I was I always took extra time to help out when it was needed. I felt like garbage. I have always presented myself to the world as a nice person. Hey, I'm nice, look at me. But what I pretended to be, what I appeared to be, were not the same thing. So I began to examine my thought processes, my behavior, especially how I treated other people. And especially how I talked about people behind their backs. I wanted there to be an evil boss concocting vicious plans designed to destroy all happiness, crush me into the ground. I wanted my problems to stem from IE6, IE7, 8, 9, 10, 11, from no donuts in the kitchen, from my boss, my coworkers. I wanted the problem to be outside of my control. And while those and other things were at times contributing factors to my unhappiness, they weren't the root of the problem. I had to face reality that the problem was me. Now, you'd have to actually slow this GIF down to take about 6 months, because that's about how long this realization took place. It was a bit slow, but I got there. So in 2011, it's really probably blurry, I became a walking cliche by quitting my job to travel Europe and find myself. I'll figure out all my problems. I briefly considered calling this talk, "You Too Can Become a Cliche," and encouraging you all to quit your jobs and travel. It was going to be epic. But then I remembered a bunch of the Angular core team members are here, and we can't have them quitting, at least until 2.0 is finalized. So team, you'll have to wait. You can become cliches later. So realizing I was the source of my unhappiness was not fun, especially depressing to look at the magnificent works of Bernini, Da Vinci, Michelangelo, and realize you suck. But this realization was also freeing. I became aware of how I actively made choices to keep myself from being happy. How I avoided responsibility. And so when I'm armed with this knowledge, and upon my return from my travels, I began looking for a new job. And I wanted this new job to be different, not because it would magically solve all my problems, but because I could be different. So in 2011, in September, I started a new job, and I made specific goals to keep me from basically being an idiot again. And these goals have been instrumental in making my current job my favorite job ever. Goal number 1, no complaining. So obviously I've been magically complaint-free ever since. Instead of complaining, I sing songs now. You know the one. And then other people complain. Mostly about my singing. Okay, so I still complain. I do. But I do complain less, and I am happier as a result. Here's what I do now instead. I complain to someone unconnected from work. I take responsibility for my actions and my role in the problem. I honestly look for solutions, and I stop if it makes me feel bad. I don't always succeed, but I try, and I am happier. Goal number 2, no gossip. I was never interested in standing around the water cooler and whispering about the private lives of my coworkers, but I did gossip about my coworkers. Their motivations, their code, their decisions, their code, their schooling, the code they wrote, their supposed experience. It went beyond simple complaints to being about their character as human beings. I was this guy. It took me a long time to figure out that that was still gossip. My third and final goal was to keep the job for 3 years. I thought this was going to be impossible. All my jobs up to this point had never been longer than 2. I made this to keep me from doing anything stupid, basically. I wanted to face up to my problems and have to solve them instead of running from them. I will have been at my current job for 5 years this September. Thank you. Have there been problems? Yeah, of course there have. I had to work on PHP for a while. Now it's Angular, it's good now. Have I wanted to rage quit? Yes. Did I? No, because it would have been stupid. Someday if I take a new job, it will be because I feel it is the right decision for my career and family, and not because of a pile of petty complaints. In conclusion, I have learned more than the last 4.5 years than I've been able to put into this talk. But these 3 goals have been instrumental in making me happier than basically anything else I've done. I challenge each of you to look at any unhappiness you experience at work and identify where it's coming from. Be willing to accept that it might be your fault. You might be sad inside. I don't know what your specific problems are. Might be Ember, React, jQuery, LOL code.js. I don't know. But I am confident that whining about it, being a jerk, and rage quitting aren't going to help. What will help is committing to solving problems instead of hurting yourself and others. And then finally, for those of you who are unhappy at work or perhaps even hate their jobs and have been awkwardly avoiding eye contact with your boss or coworkers next to you throughout the duration of this talk, I now invite you to look them in the eye. Hello. Laugh awkwardly and say, wow, not nearly as messed up as that guy was. Thank you for listening to The Happiest Programmer on Earth. I am Pop the Stack on Twitter. Fun fact, I didn't know what it meant to pop a stack when I started using this username on the internet. But I do now. It's all good. I caught up. Thank you. Come talk to me about how messed up my life was.